us rock and roll. Welcome back, everybody, to the Verdigris table. I'm joined today by Skyler of ADHDM. It takes every fiber of my being to not say ADHDM. I don't know when my brain wants to do that. It's
You and
probably
everybody else, man.
oh, okay. I thought it was a me thing. Brilliant and like verdigris table. No one knows what the fuck I'm talking about, so zero judgment there. But Skyler, well, welcome. Thank you for subjecting yourself to this.
What's up?
What's up, man? Where would people find you on the internet? And if they come looking, where are they going to find there?
If you go to youtube.com/ at the ADHDM, you're going to see me talking about ADHD and D&D and a lot of stuff in between. If you go to Instagram at the underscore ADHDM, I did not get all the good handles in one go.
Hard to do.
It was not a strategic move. You'll mostly see me post pencils. I like pencils and maybe some work in progress, behind the scenes stuff. I'm starting to get a feel for Instagram Reels. Twitter, X, Bird app, at Skyler ADHDM is I'll yap about stuff that I have in progress and whatever empty thoughts are in my head that I feel like I need to barf out onto the internet. And then patreon.com/ ADHDM. We're doing a One Piece read along right now. Those are going to be public posts and a lot of work in progress stuff there too.
Awesome. I want to talk to you mostly about the D&D stuff, but I'm going to open by asking you about the pencils because I gotta dig deeper into the pencils. What's the juice there? What's the inside scoop? Just love them.
I like them. They're good. Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to, those summers when you're a kid and you go over to your grandparents' house and it's like, they're like, we don't have a television because it's some newfangled thing to them. So you're like, oh God, what am I going to do? Pencil and paper. And I preferred pencil over pen because you can make mistakes and erase them. And shading was cool. And then started sharpening pencils with my grandpa with the pocket knife, where he was like, aha, I can put this little goblin to work. And just stuck with me my whole life. I've done deeper delving into luxury pencils, the old standby Black Wings, which are the ones with the funny ferrule. I'm sure I have one in arm's reach here. Trying to keep my so this is a volume 4 from one of the subscription sets. Come on, Sigma. There we go. So they have erasers that you can pull out further as they go down. I think this one has a balanced score. Someone on the internet can correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, I like soft graphite. This is one from the Dungeons and Degrees podcast. They know exactly how to get me to advertise for them for free. Thank you, Adrian and Alex, for the pencils.
I love it. There's something, I mean, I'm not a pencil connoisseur, and I always love people who are like deep down a rabbit hole that like I am barely aware exists. Like that just, I love people geeking out about stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like there's something like a pencil represents potential in a, like I'm a pen guy just because like I'm a writer, not a drawer. But like there's something about like an unsharpened pencil and like cranking it that first time and like anything could come out of this thing. And there's like a built-in progress clock. Like brilliant.
It is. I know, and I know when I need to take a break because it's like, oh, this pencil's getting dull, so it's time to go sharpen it. And sharpening it is like, I joke that it's like my smoke break.
That's interesting.
Because I'm like,
it is tactically as someone who misses smoking. I'm glad I don't do that anymore. But like once in a while, yeah, you miss like the tactical aspects of it, and
yeah,
also
the tactile, like the smell, and it's like, oh, I'm breathing really deep with smoke. I used to smoke too. I smoked in the Navy so I could have smoke breaks, and
it's also a social anxiety like ripcord. It's just like I don't want to be here anymore. I'll be back in 5 minutes. Yeah.
Hey, no nicotine, gotta go. Yeah. Now I'm just like, goodbye. But yeah, even the smell of sharpening pencils. Like there are pencils that they don't write the best. I mean, they're great, but they're not soft lead. Like Musgrave Tennessee Reds, the cedar that they're made from. You sharpen them, and it's like, whoa, that's fragrant. It's like incense almost.
Oh, God, I was about to ask, like, is it the wood that you're looking at? Is the graphite?
Sometimes, yeah. Yeah, a lot of there's the wood, the graphite. I like when they're painted. I'm not really a big fan of like the vinyl wraps, so I do have a bunch of really goofy like Walmart Halloween pencils somebody gave me that are like the vinyl, you know, when you sharpen them at school and there's like plastic crap dangling off of it afterwards.
It's like I'm ingesting microplastics right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My generation's lead poisoning. Let's go.
You and me both. All right. I could listen to you talk about pencils for the next hour or so. But yeah, D&D, man. I mean, you're doing good stuff over there. One, I tip my hat to your production value. You clearly have some editing chops and some thinking behind your videos. I'm a little jealous and kind of hate you, but respect where respect is due. Good shit, man. You're doing some cool stuff over there. And you bring a lot of authenticity to it, right? Like you bring all of yourself to it. I mean, it's in the name of the channel. Like you're very upfront with,
Can't help it.
yeah, and like it's and you don't have to, right? Like I think and you don't get total credit for this. I think it's like it's happening societally, but it's just like this is the deal, own that shit, and it's okay. And like, hey, maybe it's your deal too. Let's talk about it. Like, yeah, I really enjoy that wave like that. It gets you to places. I don't know, just like much more deeply, much more quickly. I think by like bringing all of you to what can be a more impersonal thing. So yeah, good job. Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, I'm glad you like it. I do consider myself to be somewhat of an editor first. Part of that is just because it's what I spend 90% of my time doing. I
Hmm.
also edit for a Deficient Master, his last 3 videos, and he rules. He's been awesome to talk to. He's not actually a jerk. He just plays one on TV.
And that kind of comes through, I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could tell. You could. It's all in good faith. Like there hasn't been a video I've watched of his where I'm like, bad take, RB.
Edit
Go to the
faster.
no corner. Yeah. um, but yeah, I mean, I get really bored if I can't like just dump my whole brain into
Mm,
something.
mm,
That's part of the ADHD thing, and editing has become the container for that. And I think you'll find a lot of folks with ADHD or a lot of autistic folks or just any flavor of neurospiciness that involves like special interests or hyperfixation or even challenges in task switching and executive function because there's many flavors of that um, that they're what they end up doing for work is something that they have an unlimited fuse to burn on,
mm.
and it's still possible to burn out, but it's a lot less likely than when I'm like doing my other actual day job, which is IT stuff, which is great. But you can only help so many grandmas with their Microsoft Office products before it gets
Haven't
a
I
little
told enough
tiring.
people this already? Come on.
Yeah,
Start talking to each other and we'll
please let's network.
yeah, I mean a ton of examples, but the Miyazaki one is the make D&D more like Ghibli and why like it's a challenge, I think, for a lot of tables, and a lot of
Certainly.
concepts. Like that's a great video. And at the end of that video, you're just like, I'm going outside and getting real now for the next however, like couple minutes, but like, so good. I got some, I don't know if you can tell, but these are all little Kodami up here from Princess
Oh
Mononoke, these
yeah,
little like
nice man.
tree dudes.
Yeah,
Um
I couldn't. They're not quite in focus, but that's good. I mean,
yeah, no,
yeah,
they
that's
can't.
red.
I need to be front center. So yeah, good shit. If you haven't checked out Skyler's channel, do it. Links where the links are all over the place. Everything else we mentioned, I will do my best to links to. We already got quite the list already, but it's funny. I don't consider myself an editor. I do a lot of it, and it takes up way more time than the other aspects of this. And I thought that's because I was a bad editor. But yeah, maybe if I spent more time, I'd be better, I guess. But all right, I'm going to ask you to roll a d20. That's going to
All right,
correspond to a card and a question. And if you roll the same thing twice, we're going to go into a lightning round.
all right. Should I use my loaded dice that we talked about earlier? Just kidding.
There's a, let's call it a progression to the questions, right? There's like a
All right.
grouping, but there's no like good or bad. Like one isn't gotcha and 20 isn't amazing. They just
I
like
think I
progress.
actually can
I'll take it.
do
I'll
this.
take it.
Get this camera strap out of the way. That is just such a pain in the ass that I never take it off. All right. What we got here? Right here.
Ooh. All right. I
Rolling
now
it. What?
14.
14.
I have to figure out how to incorporate those keys now.
Yeah.
How's it going? This can go a couple different ways. What is your take on the sandbox versus railroad spectrum? And I think it gets presented as like a black and white thing, and it's more of a spectrum.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, like everything, everybody's like, you got to pick a side. It's like,
This is the internet, and you can only have one opinion.
yeah, that's true.
So where do you stand?
So the answer is, of course, a resounding it's complicated. And I'll start with what I enjoy about both flavors, both poles. The idea of a railroad game is that you, as the DM, imagine something that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and the players will mostly pick up your cues and adhere to that. And the bad vibes from that come from the fellow DMs of Reddit. The players are ignoring my cues. What shall I do? And people are like, railroading, walk into the ocean with a pocket full of rocks. But in reality, it's no matter what door the players open, if they open the left door, if they open the right door, like the goblins will be behind that door. I don't think there's any moral virtue to not doing that. I don't think that there's any moral virtue to prepping something for every single thing that the players might do. I don't think there's any moral virtue to not doing that and pivoting and being so like wily improv on your toes that they turn over a rock and because someone found a roly-poly, like they're on a now totally different timeline or whatever. That probably doesn't make any sense. But
I'm with you.
Like all of my favorite games that I've run and to my knowledge that I've played in, because some DMs they keep their cards kind of close to their chest, but have been scenarios. The DMs basically know what's going to be here. It might be elastic. It might expand to fill a different container that the players go into. I think I'm more drawn to sandbox if I know what our goal is, because sandbox with no goal, like I don't know what your personal history is with D&D, but I feel like a lot of folks have those games early, maybe when they're teenagers, when they first start playing in college or whatever, where they have the DM or maybe they are the DM who just describes like, yeah, you're in a tavern and kind of waits for them to say like what to do. And it's like, okay, order a drink. All right, you order a drink. And there's this whole sandbox out there that they've prepped, but because the players never push any buttons or pull any levers and they're just kind of waiting for plot to happen, like the first 3 hours of D&D or whatever are just like awkward Thanksgiving dinner tier tavern small talk.
Which I mean is some people's bag.
Some people love that.
And I love a beach episode, but it's not the pilot, like
right. Yeah. And if I'm like in a social situation that is already kind of like you playing D&D with a new group, it's a little weird.
Sure.
It's it takes some, you got to feel the vibe. You're like, what jokes are these people going to laugh at? Well, how serious are we going to be in this game? What's the how lethal is the DM going to be? How cool is everybody going to be about like me forgetting stuff? Like that I'm carrying all that baggage already. And then when it's like, go find the game in the game. Like you have to go figure out where the game is so you can play it. That's kind of rough.
Yeah. It's not ideal and it's not fun. And especially opening a new group like that. Because I had a sandboxy scenario that I brought to actually the game shop down the road when I first moved here. And I was like, there's adventure wherever you like. I was upfront and clear with like these new people that I was meeting. Like this thing is jam-packed with adventures. I'll will put signposts like you follow a lead, things will be there. You want to turn around and walk in a different direction, you can do that. Like up front, above board, out of game. I'm running a sandbox. There's a ton of stuff. And if no one takes initiative and it's not going to be a player driven thing, then like guess who comes knocking on the door? Adventure. Like you have
Yeah.
to. I think it's both. Even if you have a sandboxy game and like this ideal player driven, they're figuring out like what their priorities and objectives are. You got to be ready to hit the gas. I think the dungeon master job. There's 17 of them, but one of them is definitely pacing. And if the players aren't going to bite on, the players got to bite at some point. But if they don't have any buttons to press, or they don't know it's a button sitting in front of them, yeah, they're in trouble. So that's a great answer. You also talked about
Well,
like the morality of the quantum ogre or goblins or whatever it may be,
yeah.
which is a fun internet fight where it's just like, have you run the game? Like, I don't understand why you like if you do the investigation and you figure out the goblins are behind this door, so you don't open it, and then they're behind that door. Okay, bad.
Right. Yeah, that's dishonest.
That's dishonest. But if it's like, oh, they zigged when I thought they would zag, and I have these goblins, like,
We still have 2 hours of D&D left tonight. Yeah,
guess what? The stuff I
it's
prepped
all
is going
right.
to be better most of the time than the
Don't
stuff I
tell
make up
Deficient
on the
Master I
fly.
said that. He hates quantum ogres. That's okay.
I think it's a more nuanced conversation, like everything else on the internet. I think if the
I'm a dice fudger at times. I've been known.
ooh, that's one of these.
So I also think that it's a matter of the starting point of the adventure. If something's baked into it, like a really sandboxy adventure, and I would consider Kelsey Dionne's Arcane Library 5e adventures, and most stuff that people make for Shadow Dark actually, incidentally, ends up following the same kind of formula. I think
Mm,
because she's laid all the groundwork. But it starts kind of in media res. It's like you're talking to someone who's already hired you to do something,
mm,
or you're in the place, and then it's like she gives you the rooms, what's in them on each page. There's like encounters in there that like if this happens, then this happens. But otherwise, it's like you're in a opera house where a bunch of people died. Go crazy. Um, and that's sandboxy, but it's a closed sandbox. It's like the tutorial island in Breath of the Wild, or the tutorial what plateau. It's called a plateau.
like an
Also broke
island,
out
but in the sky.
archipelago, Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah. Um, Instead of like the whole game, because before it tells you like go fight Ganon, it's like all right, learn how to do your stuff. So I think that sandboxes are great in a really small container, but if you're doing like a really crazy globe-trotting thing, um, you really want some, if not Rails, then at least some like Google Maps
Hmm.
to tell you like hey, we got to turn left in 1,000 feet.
I think that's a
There's
very important distinction too of like so often it's open world sandbox together, but those are actually two different things. And I like the open world feel because I find it such a challenge, really. And it's just like, you wanna break my game, or you wanna like, go see you wanna go stand on top of the mountain and see what's on the other side. Like there's stuff there. Like there's
You want to
always
open
stuff
a
there.
coffee shop, like let's
Yeah,
do this.
whatever. Let's
Whatever you want
go.
to do.
Yeah, I'll run that for a night. But a sandbox is I don't know how you're gonna do the things, right? I can give you a 5-room dungeon and have it be sandboxy because I don't know how you're gonna solve the puzzle, or you can befriend the boss and open a coffee shop with him at the end of the game, or you can, defeat him and kill him or imprison him and bring him back to like I don't know what you're going to do. Whereas I think railroading is like I'm going to force you to play the game the way I envisioned you playing it, and I'm going to
Right.
take away
Yeah.
player agency. And I think that's the problem. I don't think the problem is like, I know what's going to happen in 3 sessions because I bought a book and spent my time reading it, and I need that to happen or else we're going to have less fun. I don't think that's as bad. And I think people don't separate those, don't pull those two aspects apart.
Right. I mean, it's the term has taken on a lot of water. Uh, Railroading. I mean, because also some of the coolest adventures I've ever played in were like some of the 3.5 stuff that was like Red Hand of Doom, which is super sandboxy, but then there's Selma Citadel, which is like it's a 3-layer dungeon, and you have to go through it in a certain order. And the DM I was playing with at the time had a very like, if you're not going to go to the dungeon, the goblins are going to attack type philosophy, because we were all very timid, and it ended up being some of the coolest D&D I've ever played. And I would say that he was very much like, anytime we got sidetracked, he was like, nudge you back over to the adventure so that we drift back into prepped game territory.
Yeah, because roller coasters are on rails. People like roller coaster. It's
That's
like
true.
it's okay. Give me that beautiful D20 footage again. Let's get another one on here. Otherwise, we can dive into the fudging question.
Let's do it. 15.
15 going in order tonight.
Oh no,
Ooh.
this is a Magic the Gathering spinner. Just kidding.
Name a moment that would be on your TTRPG highlight reel. So it could be as a player, as a DM.
My TTRPG highlight reel. How
Yeah.
far back do I want to go? Well, this was a moment as a player, and it wasn't like some grand thing that anyone did. It was just dice happening. Because there was this graveyard full of zombies. I was like a guest player in this campaign. It's an evil campaign. I was playing a blackguard, and someone else was playing an evil cleric. And there's this graveyard full of zombies, and I guess we were expected to wade into them and destroy them, but we were high enough level that we both had Firestorm, and this was in 3.5. And we were like trying to calculate a tactical nuke strike so that we'd cover all the squares, and the DM was like, I don't think you would really be thinking about it in those terms, and communicating about it that openly, because you have to do this pretty quick. So he asked us both to roll a d20, and if we both rolled the same thing, then we could like metagame to our heart's content and like fill out all the squares. And I didn't hang out with this person a lot outside of this, so that we were both like, okay, let's roll a d20 together. All of our hope hinges on this, because we really didn't want to fight like 90 zombies or whatever it was. And we both rolled our d20s, and I think we both got 15 actually.
Huh.
And he said like, Fusion Firestorm Dance, and I said Fusion Firestorm Dance, and we high-fived, and it was rad. And it's just a simple dopamine generator moment. It wasn't high art. It wasn't any particular cleverness on anyone's. It was just a very small happenstance thing happening. Rolled the good number, did a high five.
Yeah, I mean, 1 in 400? No, I guess what, 20 in 400? Math.
Of rolling the set. Listen, I'm not gonna pretend like I know how to do it. I can Google it and be like, oh, let me think.
Highly unlikely.
Yeah, pretty unlikely.
Yeah, that's the equivalent of fudging math answers. It's not like you're gonna be walking around with a calculator in your pocket. That's cool. I really like, yeah, I like the dice making decisions. And as the DM, like okay, this is a Hail Mary, you probably can't do it, but like if the dice let you, sure. And then yeah,
Just like the fact that it wasn't a natural 20 either. It was like you both have to roll the same number, whatever it is. And we both got a 15. That was pretty cool.
I might steal that now. That's actually a pretty cool like DM technique. I haven't seen that before.
It's like those love tester arcade machines. You know what I'm talking about? So we matched up perfectly.
It was meant to be. But yeah, I like that a lot. Give me one more D20. Give me that 16. Let's go. Let's see if we can get her.
Can we? I'm asking you to give me a 16. Don't embarrass me in front of all these people. 11.
All right. This is a spicy one potentially. What is the most common player or game master mistake?
In general?
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave that up to your interpretation, but a common one that you could redress perhaps, or just like something you want to gripe about because you see it everywhere. Or something else.
I firmly believe that if something happens before you play the game on your own in a spreadsheet or in the notes app or in a notebook or whatever, it's not real until it happens in the game. So every minute spent deciding what your character is going to be doing at level 20 before session 0, at where you're going to start at level 1, or being like, oh, here's this awesome character arc where they're going to do like a third act Final Fantasy pivot and start fighting God. Or even like, well, if the players go here, I have to know what all these cultures think about their constellations. Like, there's just trying to set things in stone that are going to happen plot wise as a DM ahead of time. So just like wasting too much time away from the table making decisions, because choices are the game. If you try to make choices before the game happens, you are just playing alone, and you're deftly dodging everything that's fun about tabletop role playing games. Your mileage may vary.
Yeah, I agree with like 99% of that, like deeply. I think it is okay to play the game alone. I think if you're like enjoying, like, some people's whole thing is character creation and backstory, and that's cool. When I see people like, what? Like, how am I going to multi-class so that I get my 17-3 whatever combo? It's like
I
that's
gotta do 2 Lux Kirito build.
it's like that's 2 years away. Like, are
Yeah,
you gonna
maybe statistically speaking,
you're not getting there. First of all, the game breaks at 12. Second of all, like, you
6
need
sessions.
you need yeah, you don't. So it leads to a lot of frustration. And I learned that the hard way as a dungeon master, not because I was like trying to craft my, epic plot, but I wanted to be prepared for everything. And that way madness lies. Like, you just burn out so fast, and you can get so far ahead of yourself that like that level's, even like that level 4 thing looks so cool, and now this level 1 stuff I'm running tonight looks a lot less shiny because I'm already like 8 steps past it. So yeah, slow down, enjoy where you're at. And yeah, the interactivity is the good stuff that makes this different, because like there's other human brains that you are communing with.
Well,
And
yeah,
then
and those other human brains are like consequence generating machines. If you make a decision alone, you're not going to face any consequences for. And I'm using that word sort of agnostic of being positive or negative. Like a consequence of an action in D&D could be finding a magic sword. It could be making a new friend. It could be getting eaten by a tribe of bugbears that are super into eating people. Like, it could be anything. And if you're trying to make all your choices alone, like, I don't even like choosing feats and stuff alone.
Hmm.
Like, if I have a character, I like making those choices based on like feedback from the game. So it's like, oh well, he got like disarmed and all he had was his hand axe and it sucked. So he's gonna try to work a way around that. Or like, whoa, he really enjoyed teaching those villagers how to fend for themselves. So maybe he's gonna pick up something related to, or like grab a retainer, or there's not much of that in 5e, but maybe like leading people is now, maybe he's going to put some points into charisma to watch a YouTube video about how to win friends and influence people.
My spell book is by Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
I love that. And like consequences and like effects, like results from causes. I don't know what, like, because consequences feels like
Yeah, it's a
punishments or
little
something,
loaded.
but
Yeah.
like, yeah, like progression due to causes. Like, yeah, that's the juice. Otherwise, like, you play a video game or something. Like, what happened to my character formed my character. Or I built Thor, and so did the person sitting next to me. So this is good. Either we're both going to be, you know, that one moment of like lightning storm and everyone's doing lightning storm,
Thor
awesome,
Brothers.
beautiful, for a one shot or something. For a whole campaign, we're just gonna step on each other's toes, and like I'll deviate, like, no problem. um yeah, and like spell selections because something that happened to you, feats because you learned a thing, or the opposite, you wish you had known a thing. Yeah, that's great, that's
Now,
brilliant.
and I say all that, but I'm also, sometimes I can really get goblin mode fiend about, if especially if I've been DMing forever and haven't played in a while. Or if I'm about to play a new game, like if I actually convince someone to run Lancer for me, which is harder than finding a job, actually. Um,
I believe it.
it's a very intimidating system for a lot of people.
Never
But
never ran it. Would love to play it.
I can just like I can pour a lot of time and energy into a thing that hasn't been played yet. And um the reason that I'm so kind of averse to that is because I emerged from that and I'm like, oh, I actually have nothing. It's like playing Minecraft and like hollowing out a 100 by 100 by 100 block basin, and then you do it and you're like, well, that was fun while I was doing it, but now what?
Mm-hmm. And I think it's like reps. Like I think it's a good exercise, right? It's like practice, but it's not the game. And it's the and it seems
Right.
and it's the game for some people. And like maybe you should.
I can call them frustrated novelists, and that's all right.
Well, that's on the DM side for sure. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I don't want to be at that table. And I don't want to be at the table that like, no, this build is the best build, and I'll tell you why. And you can't break my AC because it like we're playing different games. I'm sorry. Like that's not the point. You're trying to win, and I'm trying to make sure
I
the
played a
most
lot of
amount of
three
fun
five,
happens.
so like I did in my disreputable youth spend a lot of time looking up like Dragon Magazine articles that will let me have an amulet that deals damage when someone hits me, so that my Diablo 2 Thorns Paladin build can finally come to fruition. And if the DM was like, I don't think I want a Dragon Magazine article, I'd be like, well, it's not fair. You're limiting my fun.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
EN World Forum said that you should.
I pulled 17 people on the internet.
Yeah.
Give me another D20 because we're already upsetting some folks. But I think
Okay.
you, which I'm okay with actually, but I think it's a phase.
9.
Oh, I was about to say, is that six or a nine? Nine. I think you do that a few times and you're like, oh, there's so much more to this game, right? Like you want to build the best character you can because they want to be the best that they can because they don't want to die. Um, Same question, kind of. What common slash popular advice or take do you disagree with?
Bear with me here.
Take your time.
Well, it's going to sound a little crazy, but let me
Oh,
cook.
oh, yeah, okay. I'm here for that. I thought you were thinking. Yeah, yeah, let's go.
Session 0, as in like always have one.
Hmm.
I don't even remotely think that that's true. I'm not in that never have a session 0 camp, but the idea of having like like a pre-production meeting for a television show where you're like you bring out your story Bible and everyone's like, I think I'm going to go with this character archetype. Um, if you are prepared to speak to presumably your friends, maybe strangers on the internet, if you're going that route, but like statistically speaking, you're playing D&D with your friends or whatever your RPG of choice is. I feel like I always have to add that disclaimer. It doesn't have to be D&D. Hey, whoa, I'm just using it. It's the Kleenex. It's Xerox. I'm just using it as a shorthand.
Yeah.
But if you're prepared to communicate with your friends, whether you like something or you don't, like that was cool. I liked that. That upset me. I didn't like that. The function of a session 0 is basically moot. Like, if the DM in the group text is like, "Who wants to?" We're playing a pirate campaign. Like, mostly everybody's going to be like, "Okay, I'm gonna roll a pirate," or it does. You don't need. A lot of people are intimidated away from running the game in any capacity because session 0 is this kind of social hurdle where you're almost doing like tryouts as the DM. We're like, is my idea cool enough? Is everybody gonna like it? And as players, they're like, oh, are these? And I'm also on the autism spectrum. I'm autistic, so having to navigate additional social protocols and asks on top of the game is kind of tricky for me.
Mm-hmm.
And session 0 has become this like sacred cow that must be obeyed at all costs. When most of what session zero accomplishes is like a text message or a the DM sends you a 1-page PDF.
Yeah, that's very interesting to me. That was a very yeah, a very good take that is counter to the received wisdom of I don't know, the TTRPG community on the internet for the last 5 years. Um, yeah, I think I will do a session zero when I sit down with new people or people who are new to the hobby. And my session zero is usually about a minute, and it's like, hey, we can talk about things. I'm open to you saying, hey, I don't like this, and anything can happen here. So if you have something that you're afraid of or don't want to see, tell me now. And if you don't tell me now, you can still tell me later. Anybody have anything to say? No, cool. Here we go. Also, I'm
I
not going to do elaborate sex scenes or something because that's like my icebreaker, and like I don't, you know, in a room with a
This
hundred
is not
nerds.
the game to be horny,
Yes,
please.
that's you want to do that. That's fine. That's cool. And maybe I'll do that in the comfort of my own home with like friends I know forever. But like strangers, no, we're not. Please don't romance my NPC too hard. I'll do a cutscene if you really want to. But it
The
is. Oh,
an alternative that I offer,
mhm.
and that I this is my favorite kind of TTRPG running games to run, I should say, is I will run introductory sessions for each individual character
Mm,
about them joining the party. And that's when I kind of learn about them and they learn who they are. Sometimes that's even the character creation process because if somebody's totally new to the game, I'll be like, let's go grab lunch and we'll have some coffee and you can talk about your character and I'll bring some dice and we'll roll out like a really rules light intro scenario about like because I'm maybe I'll say like this is a real example where I'm like you're all in a mercenary company now, um, and you're on the run from a client that you wronged. How did that happen?
mhm,
And so in our one-on-one session zero, which for me is like this is session one, the game has started now. I'll ask them questions like why are you in a mercenary company? Your background is noble. Like what happened to you?
mm,
Or I'll try to ask some questions that they don't know the answers to yet, so
mm,
that and if they're like, I don't know yet, can I come up with an answer later? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. But I really, when I have the time, which it is hard to have the time these days, as the YouTube numbers go up, the time numbers unfortunately go down. But if I have the time, I love running a game every other week. And in between, like let's say I have 4 players, I either get on Discord or I'll go grab coffee for like 15 to 30 minutes with everybody throughout the week.
mm,
Just a regular hangout. And we'll do like a micro D&D character development side quest thing. Like they're, if it was like a Super Sentai Power Rangers thing, it's like, all right, this is the Blue Ranger episode where he goes off and does his own thing. And now he emerges from it with a new NPC hireling or a magic item or something. Usually, if they have an ask where they're like, I really want this sword from this thing, or like, I don't want to play um, whatever it's called, White Plume Mountain, but I really want Black Razor, and like we're level 17. I'm like, okay, cool. Let's you and me do a solo Black Razor adventure, um, and you'll have an opportunity to get it or something. But a very long-winded way for me to say I just touted session zero as being an unnecessary step, so run 4 session zeros instead, one on
yeah.
one with everyone.
And I want to pull this apart because I do think I'm learning something here because I almost use session zero as like a litmus test for again for like new people. Like if I'm sitting down with I'm starting a new campaign with the dudes I've been running with for 10 years. Like we're not, I don't know. The arcane is like this has got body horror. Any objections? No? Cool. What if I make it much worse? You're into that? Great. That was our session zero. It's a
Whoa,
third.
you're too into that? Never mind.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's all. But again, it's a litmus test. And I do it with new people because every once in a while someone objects to the idea of session zero and it feels like I'm objecting to like human compassion. I am objecting to changing my behavior in any way to make the experience of the people around me better or more comfortable or like, because whatever. I'm not getting into specifics of like other people because it's not mine, but like some people have certain experiences they don't want triggered or whatever. I try to be open to that as if I'm running the game, and I also want to make sure that the people around the table are open to that to a degree. So it's interesting that like I might be challenging people in a way that I don't understand. Whatever, as I hesitate to say neurotypical, but I don't feel typical. But like, yeah, to the idea, what your beef with session zero is not. There's like the social side of it, and there's like the game side of it, and like I'm confused about which side
Oh,
you're
both sides of
both
it.
sides of it. So
So
you don't you wanted to
this
do it separately with each person instead of doing it collectively as a group on like the backstory side of things before we get started?
yes,
Okay.
and once again, I do consider that like session one, chapters one through whatever, because
Mhm.
it's not set up. It's way less distracting. And I run a lot of games at conventions too, or I have in the past. I've played a lot of games at conventions, or even just in scenarios where you're with brand new people. Like I ran a West Marches game for my Discord server that had like 75 people in it.
Mm.
Um, you can't really session zero that. Like I had a YouTube video that kind of laid down the law, but that was unlisted. But that's about it. Um, and I'm going to say the word that makes a lot of people really angry. Two words. Um, Safety tools
Okay.
can be good for those situations where it's like, okay, we're at a convention. I don't need to know what your phobias are, but I am going to tell you that like I don't do anything sexual. I just don't run that stuff in my games. Like it's not something I'm interested in describing to strangers at a convention or at a game shop or on Discord. So like that for me curbs a lot of the sort of session zero sensitivity stuff. Um, I'm also not really interested in narrating like very detailed depictions of painful torture.
Mm.
So a lot of the times as a DM, when a player brings some of that stuff to the table, I'll just say like, I'm not really interested in exploring that any further. And that's it. And like, it doesn't start a legendary RPG horror stories fight that turns into a 4chan green text that ruins my game and my life.
Yeah. So it's so I'm a little confused. I'm gonna own it because like I think well you're describing session zero stuff to me, but you don't like to make like a whole big like meal out of it. Is that it? Like
Well,
you
I
don't
mean,
want to
safety tools, like 10 seconds at a convention
yeah. So
to
you
be.
don't want to spend 3 hours talking about like your childhood fear of spiders and where does that come from? Or is that
I don't even need to know that someone is like. I mean, if spiders is the one that comes up a lot,
well that's
and that's
just like that's
interesting too.
always the
Yeah.
example. Yeah.
But I want to know like, was there a game someone played at some point where they
There,
were like, oh, I really screwed up. Um,
there was a movie called Arachnophobia. And if you're around my age, it fucked you up for a
It
while.
was it was supposed to be like a Jaws with spiders, but it was really the trailers were really goofy. Yeah. That was one that I never watched when I was a kid, but it was on the trailer for something. I think Fright Night, that Peter Jackson,
Oh, interesting.
Michael J. Fox ghost movie. And Arachnophobia was like, anyway, the movies that you see on like coming soon, a video and DVD. And you just never go out of your way to go see. Arachnophobia was one of those.
I
But
was too young to see it. It probably doesn't hold up. Don't I'm not linking arachnophobia this time, guys.
certainly
I
not.
don't.
The session zero, the anatomy of session zero that I wouldn't say opposed to, but I'm saying it is superfluous.
Uh-huh.
Is all right. Let's everybody. This Thursday is just going to be like character creation, and we're going to talk about the tone of the game, and we're going to talk about like party, maybe party composition. Some people use it for. I don't think that that's bad.
Hmm.
It is not a miserable experience for me. But if statistically speaking, I'm only going to meet up for 5 to 6 sessions with a given group before our adult schedules combust, especially now that I'm like playing with people across time zones. Um, I'd rather get to the game and set people's expectations. To me, session zero is the equivalent of like this could have been an email, work
Okay.
meetings, right?
Okay, so I 100% get it, and I'm 100% on the same page with you. Yeah, like that. Yes, session zero. it implies it's a session, and like I have never spent 3 hours talking about that.
I've been
Yes,
in a lot of games where people have, where it's
yeah,
like or like and this is gonna sound, well, I'll let you decide how it sounds. Um,
that's up for YouTube to judge, but
the yeah, weigh in the comments.
yeah,
Um, this is an autism thing for me. It might not be for some people,
uh,
but if we're meeting up to do the thing, like if it's like we're gonna play Smash Bros on Thursdays, and the first Thursday that we meet up to play Smash Bros is like a conversation that we have to navigate. Um, that where we don't play Smash Bros. That to me is like torture. I'm gonna be. It's not
March.
that I'm necessarily uncomfortable. It's just very difficult for me to engage, and so
Uh-huh.
I can't really be present.
Uh,
Um, I'm like just and I'll seem really uneasy and irritable even if I'm not, because people are like, "Are you okay? Did I make you angry?" I'm like, "No, I just want to play D&D."
yes. Yeah. And not to diminish that experience, but I can relate with that with like food, very specific. Like
Yeah.
we go out to eat, and we're gonna spend 3 hours looking at the menu together and perhaps oversharing. And I might get a little frustrated,
Little hangry
a
about
little
that.
hangry, especially with food. Actually, we'd be very hangry, but like that makes sense to me. Where it's like we came here to do one thing, and now we're doing another thing. And I do think, yeah, different rules for different tables, different groups have different
Definitely.
tones and experiences, and they're looking for different things. But like, yeah, I am not looking for a 3 hour conversation about what I don't want. Um, from a game. The character creation stuff can be interesting. It depends what we're doing. Sometimes yeah, I like to do it separate because like all this interesting like stuff starts to connect, and like that's the fun part for me, where it's just like, oh, they don't even know that they're both pirates. Like
Yeah, or it's I what I love about that is like, oh, they're both pirates. Um, is when this person is like, oh, I was I someone helped me escape from prison. I'm like, okay, that's this other character. Cool. I'm gonna keep that my mouth shut until they meet each other,
hmm
and just sort of like, and then I'm like texting like, hey, what does your character look like? I'm like, yeah, the guy who
hmm
saved you looked like this. Like, okay. Um, that's my crack as a DM is doing the like making the pieces connect like a synapse bridges in my brain, and I'm like, oh, they're from a holy order of paladins devoted to sealing this demon, and I'm like, this character is a warlock with a abyssal patron. It's like I'm gonna see what happens there. Complications.
Awesome. I like that a lot. On that note, I think we're gonna take a little break because I think you're really gonna like the next part
All
of this
right,
show. But my little chihuahua just banged down the door.
we have a thunderstorm here.
Oh,
Um,
if you hang up on me, I'll assume it's because you hate me, not because you lost power or something.
okay, cool.
Let's let's take a couple minutes. Thanks everybody for watching D20 questions. We'll be right back with the Game Master's Compendium of Explosive Creation. See you soon.